Hello and welcome to iDiskiTV. My name is Nkululeko Nkewu and I'm with Nkululeko Sabata and Lindo Nkosi, aka Lindo Pep. Thank you so much for joining us. The African Cup of Nations has started. So in this video and the next video with Bobo and the next video that will see us with Junior, with So, with whoever, we'll be talking about the African Cup of Nations, basically. Whether we're previewing Bafana Bafana against Angola or generally the next video you will see maybe about Egypt, but everything you will see over the next few days will be all things African Cup of Nations. Now, the African Cup of Nations for South Africa means something very significant because in the early 90s, João Havelange was a FIFA president. He's a Brazilian. He wanted to legitimize South Africa as they were coming out of the apartheid era. As they were coming out of that, there was a clamor by the International Olympics Committee and, of course, FIFA and different bodies as well to say we are the first to accept South Africa in the sporting arena. Eventually, South Africa was accepted in football internationally and, of course, in Olympics and in rugby. In 95, we host as South Africa the Rugby World Cup and we win it. In 96, we host as South Africa the CAF African Cup of Nations, and we win it. Now, interestingly enough, I say all of this to say the African Cup of Nations is historically important for us because it gave us legitimacy. We were always playing football internally during apartheid, so that Jomo Cosmos beats Swallows, and then they are champions, and we think we are the best, so that Chiefs beats Pirates, so that Pirates beats Chiefs, so that Zola Maobe's Sundowns wins a league, for example, and we think we are the best. The African Cup of Nations in 1996 gave us an idea of whether or not, or a gauge to see ourselves against the continent. And for the first time playing against continental teams in a continental showpiece, we won it. In 98, we went to the final, we lost to Egypt. In 2000, we were third place, we won a bronze medal. So that reinforced to us that the football we had been playing domestically was good enough that it produced human beings who could play and win in Africa. At some point, we were number 16 globally in FIFA rankings and perhaps number 1 in Africa. So the African Cup of Nations gives us an idea of where we are on the continent. That's not normal what we achieved because if you look at new countries who are allowed to play football afresh, like South Sudan, you see them struggling because they had to break away from mainland Sudan because of the civil war that was happening there. Because then there had to be a new national team without players from Al Merrek and Al Hilal, they then got an idea and a shock that they're not as distant a football nation because they're still building. They have to build their own league and they have to build their own teams playing in the CAF Champions League. So the African Cup of Nations, whatever you think of it, is a gauge for us as African people to say, okay, we're number 4 in Africa. We're number 5 in Africa. We're not so bad. Last time South Africa were in the African Cup of Nations, they were number 3. They won a bronze medal against the Democratic Republic of Congo. This time around, they want to do one better, maybe go to a final. We'll see. We hope. Lindo Pep, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Shopping Mr. Nkewu.
Yes, sir. Long
Very
time
good.
no see.
Yeah, long time, Mr. Nkewu.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yes, sir.
I hope everybody is well and safe this December. There's a lot of horrible things that have been happening away from football that I guess it's a message maybe to the public to say, let's drink responsibly, let's take care of ourselves. As more probably as people that look up to us, I think you guys continue to having a splendid December. There's more content. There's more to be said in 2026. But Mr. Nkewu, me personally, before we can start about everything, for me, this is a big moment for me. I don't know if I can articulate and explain how, or people can feel the sense of how significant this is for me. I don't know how many AFCONs you've done in the last 6 years, I guess.
Obsessively, I've watched it since I was 6 years old. The 96 moment when I was in Nkululeko / KTC. I saw people shooting guns in the air when we were winning and half-naked people running around the streets of Nkululeko, 103, 78. So obsessively, I've watched each edition without fail, watching other national teams too when we get knocked out. Obsessively, since I was 6 years old, I've been watching. Since we started iDiski, we've been watching them. Because we existed for 6 years, we've been covering the African Cup of Nations for the past 6 years. And it's been nice. It's been nice to see Bafana Bafana been knocked out early, and then progressively now they went to the semi-finals.
Mr. Nkewu, I grew up in an era. I'm 30, so I grew up in an era where Bafana Bafana, there were situations or periods where they did not make it or they did not qualify. For me, the greatest achievement is something that I've been told because I was 1 year old, where I was told about the 96, us winning it, and what it meant. Legends like about Dr. Kumalo, Niltovi, Mark Fish, Edward Mutale, and Lucas Khateb, and so many. And they still are legends of South African football. But for me, to be honest with you, as somebody who's played, coached, and now as a football expert analyst, it's a big moment for my career because it also proves the work that has been done over the last 10 years of being coaching, being unknown. But to be sitting here with you, you have no idea how emotional I am, because for me, this is what I've been working for. This is what I work for each and every single day of my life.
I've said to you before that whatever you want to do with your career, I want you to know that the space you want to get yourself in is when Bafana Bafana plays at an African Cup of Nations or at a World Cup, and we lose or win, I want, and 50,000 to 100,000 people want answers. They want someone to explain what has just happened, and I want you to be the face of that. We spoke about SuperSport, we spoke about privately SABC, and I said to you that SABC will always have one person plus two analysts, one presenter plus two analysts, and when Bafana Bafana is playing, only those three people can be there at the same time. And if you are the ninth other analyst at SABC or the seventh other analyst at SABC or SuperSport, you're not going to get an opportunity to explain to people what happened in that moment. The beauty about the digital space, whether you do it on your own platform, on TikTok, on different platforms or here, is that you get to tell them what happened. Rightly or wrong, because of course sometimes we mischaracterize moments. We might need to watch it again to give a precise answer as to what happened. But the beauty about the internet, and that's what I was saying when we qualified for the World Cup, that it will be the first digital World Cup for South Africa. All of us digital content creators will be able to explain to people what happened.
And what we saw.
And we will be able to say, Safa didn't do this, or Safa did this, Hugo Bros didn't do this, or Hugo Bros did that, or the players did this, but they did not do something else. So we will be the voices. I've been traveling for the past 24 hours, 3 different cities just to watch sporting events, and every time you go to the airport, people see you and they're like, thank you, all the best. This morning someone was like, good luck with the work that you guys are doing.
You know, so you have no idea.
It's fantastic for us to get to be paid to talk about football.
Doing it in this platform for me is another thing that makes me very grateful as well, because watching iDiski over the years, it's one of the platforms maybe after SABC and DSTV where you'd say people go to immediately.
SABC and SuperSport will always be here. We should never fool ourselves.
For sure.
They will always be here because they are, especially SABC, are free. You flick a channel on your TV. You can watch
that's the market. They might not be on social media.
When they don't have data, they could watch it for free.
They might not be on social media, but the reach is huge. SuperSport is, of cose, we watch the games there. But iDiskiTV has contributed. For me, I'm sorry if I'm Lindoza, but iDiskiTV has contributed a lot in my career because I walk around with the confidence and the technocrat feel, which is the expectee, which is something that sharpens every day or analyzing the Betway games. For me, this is a significant moment, not just for myself, but for my family as well. For the first time, I don't really focus and watch and overwatch and analyze situations, but I feel like this time around, I'm very well driven to deliver some of the best analysis as well.
We have to get to the content of it, but I'm going to say this, that whatever happens with Bafana Bafana, to some of your fans, it will hinge on how you explain it. So, for example, if Bafana Bafana, because this is football, they could play 3 matches and crash out, and it will be you giving people direction. Or Junior for his videos. All of you guys do your own individual videos, also for his videos. But you and your base and your 10,000 people or your 20,000 people, they'll be looking to you to give them a characterization of what has just happened. I know how that feels because when I was 16, at the 2006, I'll never forget this. 2006 African Cup of Nations, there's a guy who was working in the army, Ubao Machin, and I was watching his TV. And I was crying because Bafana Bafana didn't even score a goal at that AFCON. And I asked him, why are we like this? Like I was literally in tears. Why are we like this? Why are we so shit in football?
Why?
You know. And the reason why I bring his memory up is because you will be that guy. And he was like, yo, it will be fine. Because they're not as invested in football. But we were watching it together, you know, in his house. He was working in the army. He was a colleague of my aunt. And he kept on saying, no, it will be okay. He was never as obsessed with it as I was. Like I was like, why is this not right? Like why we're not even scoring a goal from 96 to 2006, a 10-year period where we win, and then the other one we don't even score a goal. That was the first time we didn't score.
Do you
a
know
goal.
what makes this one special, Mr. Nkewu? Is the fact that we are the voices when Bafana Bafana has an opportunity or we're going into that competition as favorites. That's, I think, that makes it special. That we're going into that competition, people are expecting us to do something special.
That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
your voice will be important
Yeah.
because it could also go pear-shaped.
Yeah.
I don't even think that we are favorites, but I agree with you that the nation expects.
Yeah.
Like for the first time in a long time, the nation expects. Let's talk your favorite Bafana Bafana memory at the African Cup of Nations. What do you remember in any edition, your African Cup of Nations, before we talk about Angola, Bafana Bafana?
Yeah, Mr. Nkewu, me personally, I'll speak about 2023, to be honest with you, because that's the good memory I have. I don't want to speak about memories, because the last good moment that I had about Bafana Bafana in an AFCON was Uthembi Nkosi Lodge scoring that goal against the Egypt.
That was in 2019,
In 2019.
in the last 16 in Egypt.
Which was a significant goal, knocking out Egypt. I think they were in home turf, if I'm not mistaken.
It was their home tournament.
For me, when I was watching that Bafana Bafana, even going into that game, Mr. Nkewu, I never had the confidence that I have now in 2025, where I would say I do have this confidence of saying I know that certain teams are not pushovers, but I know that maybe we can try to do something. In that match, Mr. Nkewu, it was a shocker. That's why it meant something to us, because nobody believed that we could beat Egypt based on the quality of players that they had. Even our players as well, some of the players that were there in the national team, they were really good players in terms of individual quality, but there were so many dynamics in terms of group work, what's the dressing room dynamics that were, and football politics that overshadowed what happened to Gusafa and the team. So,
and if you remember at the time as well, our Champions League teams or our domestic teams were not as good on the continent as they are now. Yes, Sundowns, of course, every year were always, even in 2019, every year they were always I think that year they were knocked out by Al Ahly in the quarterfinals. That season of that year, they were knocked out in the quarterfinals, and they were the only one that was pushing to that level, and they were knocked out by Al Ahly. This period, our teams, whether it's been Stellenbosch,
Sundowns,
even Marumo Gallants in the 2023 Confederations Cup, they went to the semifinals, Pirates semifinals, Champions League, and Sundowns doing what they always do as well, semifinals, finals. So this period is different from 2019 in that it felt like our teams were building up to this moment where they were continental giants.
Yeah, and speaking about the 2023, and now you're mentioning that teams like Abu Marumo Gallants did well, and now to think that teams like Marumo Gallants did well, and we went on to do well as well. So for me, that tells you that club football is important, and you need to give credit to the teams that are participating in CAF competitions. But Mr. Nkewu, last season, there was an evolution in the last edition, I mean to say. And the evolution was, Bafana Bafana yasiyadlala. Yes, we've got the quality. Yes, we dominate opponents, but we don't score. We don't win. For the first time, Maupegi Bafana Bafana, most matches I was not happy. I was not happy at the game against Nigeria. I was not happy with the game against DRC, which we won the third. I was not happy against the game against Nigeria. But for the first time, I sat down and I said, we got the result. Most of the time, you would watch Bafana Bafana and would dominate the opponent, would play well, would have dribbling wizards from sides, a controlling midfield, but no results after the game. After the match, final result, Bafana Bafana lost, whether in penalties or we lost 1-0 with a header. We understood that in African football as well, for me, there was an evolution in also understanding that maybe at some games we might not have to play well to get a result. And for me, it gave confidence not only just to the team, to the players, individual players, to believe that they can compete in a midfield battle. They are willing to fight. Defensively, you can deal with Abu Osimhen and all those big strikers that play in Europe. We are speaking about our tech line, Abu Pesitao in the previous one, Abu Mahop, Abu Lyle.
Yeah, we had to ask them to do a lot of work.
We asked them to do a lot of work defensively.
And
also we asked them to cover about 50 to 40 meters to go and create opportunities and to score. We asked a lot from players from Abu Mshishi, the tactical growth, the technical growth, the psychological growth from the team, from the players, even the coach himself with his experience. So for me, the last edition was one that, because I was even a little bit older, let me be honest, I was a little bit older in terms of understanding the football world. Because most of the time when you're growing up watching football, yes, you do understand tactics, you are obsessed about the game, but you don't really understand the dynamics, because football is not only what happens on the 90 minutes. So now you understand the dynamics that football is played beyond 90 minutes. So for me, it gave the players confidence. It gave me belief that we can actually win. We can go to our semi-finals and have the belief of beating in Nigeria and going to the final. You can go there to the third place and not go there and sulk. Mr. Nkewu, because most of our players, our biggest problem is we had I'm a dressing room dynamics. We had segregations in the dressing room when things were not going down. Everyone wanted to be a coach. People were pointing each other. Now we lose as a team, we win as a team, and for me, that evolution was good to see. Number one, from a performance perspective, was I happy? Maybe not, but was I happy with the result? For sure.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose that was the feeling at the time when we were covering it.
Yeah.
I remember I was on Kaya FM being called, and there's a game literally that I called what was going to happen exactly down to the T. It was the semi-final against Nigeria.
Yeah.
I was called by someone in Zambia, some of my friends who were journalists in Zambia, and on Kaya FM, and I gave them the same analysis on video and on radio. And I said that what we are going to do, given what I had seen in the first 4 matches, is it's not, and I like the fact that you are emphasizing that the result was the driving force, not the performance per se. What I liked, or not necessarily like, I don't like that because your performances will carry you even in moments where you are lost.
It might affect things in future sometimes,
And I remember saying that these games will be dragged to penalties. It will be 1-1 and it will be dragged to penalties so that, because our trump card was Ronan Williams.
Yes.
And I could see the calculation from the coaching team. But maybe the positive, because not everything is negative, maybe the positive, as I pick it up from you, as you mentioned that we could rub shoulders against Abo Osimhen, is that actually, for the first time in a very long time, you would not be thrown into the field against Sadio Mane and you feel like, oh, this is Sadio Mane. And I like that aspect of it, that every opponent we played against, we stuck to the game plan, you know. And if you stick to your game plan, it doesn't matter that you're coming up against Mo Salah. And I remember with Nigeria, we had 2 right backs. We had Grant Kekana and Kurisho Mutau. I think it was 2 right backs against Moses Simon of Nigeria. So yeah, I suppose for a lot of people as well, before we go to the Angola game, that would be a memory for them. The people who are maybe just turned 20, I'm in 2000, were 25. To them, they were 23 for the last AFCON. So maybe to them, that is a fresh memory. It's one of their favorite AFCONs.
You know what the thing is, Mr. Nkewu? I always make this example of Jorge Rivero, that people will always remember him for winning big trophies.
Sure.
But nobody will remember against the Pyramids. I was sitting there. He made those subs.
Oh, those were poor subs.
And they lost the CAF Champions League. But people will always remember the fact that he won 5 trophies.
The trophies that he won.
It's the same thing with this AFCON. I believe that how the mind works. I think the mind has been developed like that we are caught.
There's an overemphasis on the positivity.
Yes.
But a positivity bias. You might think that your team should have won just because you remember the chances that they tried to score. But then you don't remember what the opponent was doing on the other side. Well, because as human beings, we remember that. Let's go then to tomorrow, I suppose. And we're shooting this on a Sunday, building up to the Monday that Bafana Bafana are playing at 7 o'clock against Angola. Angola were in... For them too, this was a good memory. African Cup of Nations, the last one, 2023. Because Angola has not always been a top-class African team. For sure. They've always been decent, but not top class. They won their group last time around. I remember a dreadlock player called Mapululu. Their striker.
33-year-old from Pyramids.
Their striker, they loved him. That was his tournament. And Angola, they won their group and they went to the quarterfinals. They won in the last 16, they beat Namibia 3-0. And then they went to the quarterfinals. They lost to Nigeria.
1-0,
Tina, we lost to Nigeria as well in the semifinals. So we lost to the same team. And as I was looking at this and I remember this, I was like thinking to myself that it's not going to be an easy game for South Africa. Because even Nabo, they come with the confidence of having done well last time around. We got one step better than them. But even for them, they overperformed. It was like the Southern African teams did decently last time around.
Mr. Nkewu, historically, we've got an edge. In playing against Angola. But let me tell you something. There's something special happening in Angola. And you both and I saw it. And maybe you might not remember, but let me remind you. We went on to go and watch the COSAFA Cup under 17. And we saw some very, very good players.
I don't even remember,
you remember
the
very
specifics of it, but I remember we watched
there were some really, really good players from there. And you could see the development. And they went on to beat South Africa 3-0 in the COSAFA Cup. Just recently in 2025. And last year...
Think about also Petro Atletico. For me, what told me about what's happening with Angola was what I saw at Petro Atletico. The moment that Pirates buys Gilberto is because it's doing well at Petro Atletico. And Tocanero were bought in North Africa as well. Some of their players, and I know they had like 4 Brazilians, and even their coach at the time was a Brazilian. But in the AFL, they were there.
Yeah.
In the CAF Champions League, they kept on going to the quarterfinals. And I was like, something's happening there.
Something is brewing
maybe it's
there.
benefiting one team. Maybe they need 2 more teams, but something is happening there.
Yeah, I think that investing in development has been their biggest gold dust, in my opinion. I think it's their biggest success, and that's the reason why they are getting it right. They've got a lot of European-based players that are in the team. Number one, physical. Number two, they play with a lot of speed. Number three,
Very athletic,
they're very athletic, very technical. You find players that can pick a spot from any angle. They've got players that can hurt you on a counter-attack. Defensively, they are not as good as maybe in Egypt from an organization perspective, shape perspective. You can always pick passes to break them. But with them bringing European coaches, I think that's what they're trying to improve into their team, which is the organization part of international football. Because international football, the teams that normally succeed.
Just as you're speaking, I think recently they played against Argentina. I remember this as it was reported.
Yeah.
I just can't remember what. They lost 2-0. But I want to see if this was in Mumbai, Argentina, or it was Argentina. They lost 2-0 recently. And it's an honor, of course, for if we get a Brazil to play against us or Mbappe's France to play against us. I think even Zambia once played against Brazil. You know, it's always nice for us to rub shoulders. I don't know how they pulled it off, because sometimes that thing is very political. Like, someone who has a lot of, like Patrice Motsepe bringing Barcelona here. You know, for you to get those kind of matches, a political player. Yeah, so Lionel Messi, when they played they won 2-0. Messi scored. Lautaro Martinez scored. And there was Lo Celso, McAllister. That's a World Cup winning team. Argentina, basically. So even they've been having decent high-profile friendlies recently, although it's just one to talk about.
But for me, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Nkewu, is that I think their biggest downfall for them personally, I think with these African teams, is that they know that they've got individual quality. But maybe from an organization perspective, because it's about low margins, it's about finer details in international football, because you're playing against some of the best players. It's the apex of football. So details are important. Organization, shape. So for me, I'm looking from at that perspective that they're not going to be an easy opponent. They're not going to be a pushover. It's the first game. Number two, those countries, Mr. Nkewu, they're not as developed as South Africa. They play for pride. Maybe I repeat myself. They play for legacy. The psychological part matters, because if you can't outplay them, they know that they're going to outrun you. So that we psychologically, we need to be ready for a fight. Number one, we are technically we are superior there. But now, when we don't have the ball, matters for us. Are we going to be hungry to go after the ball? Are we just going to press, or are we going there to make sure that we don't allow them? We make sure that we don't allow them to play their game, which is they've got one key tactical game plan: physicality, diagonal balls, counter attack, set pieces. Plan A is counter attack. Plan B is set pieces. Plan C is making sure that they stifle, narrow defensively, take us to penalties, not to penalties, get a draw. That's the best
it is a point
outcome.
For them as well.
It's the best outcome.
I
for
think
them.
it will. We need to look at Bafana Bafana. We're running out of time as well. We might, if we get a draw here, I don't think that Egypt is an easy win for us. So the way that we need to look at this is, it's important for us to get this win, because we are looking at, perhaps Zimbabwe has its problems and its financial problems. If you're being reasonable, you could say that Egypt will look at 3 points definitely from Zimbabwe. South Africa the same, Angola the same as well. So whatever we do, don't drop too many points in between. If all of us are going to get 3 points from Zimbabwe, all due respect, I love Zimbabwe actually as a country, but they have too many problems behind the scenes. Even Marshall Munyetsi had a problem with miscommunication, and he was not invited to go to the AFCON. Just think about that. Their best player. So it's very important. Let's talk about that, the importance of getting that win and playing on the front foot, because maybe Angola will look at us and say, you guys are big brother. To get a draw will be important from you. Tina, how do we play on the front foot? Because most of the time, if we play Nigeria, for example, we play on the back foot.
For me, that's the interesting part about this AFCON. Going into a game expecting to win. That's a different shift now. Not hoping to win. Going into that game expecting a win. And for me, it becomes difficult because pressure is on us now to say we have to keep the ball. We have to come up with the creativity. We have to be clinical in terms of the opportunities that we create. My biggest worry going into this game, Nkewu, is the clinicalness of our national team. I don't think that we are ruthless enough. in the final third.
front of goal.
In front of goal. And these competitions are about goals. Pragmatic defensively, for me, I do see even a Kabini playing as a left back to create that back three, back four,
like an extra centre
back on the left-hand side, because I assume that he would want to use a Rilem Fukeng on the left-hand side, give him less responsibilities in terms of defensively.
Most likely a police. The opening of a Cup of Nations, think about it from a Hugo Bross perspective. The predictable European coach will say, Mufukeng, of course, doesn't help me defending.
Yeah.
As brilliant as he is, it doesn't help me defending. There will be negatives against him.
Yeah.
He's never played at this level, blah, 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 blah. I think a police, the build-up to coming to this point is that he's made that position his.
Yeah.
I know that Moremi also has put his name in the hat in that position. I think it will most likely be a police.
Tactically, what I see is that I see a three-man midfield with Umbule. But Umbule doesn't have that quality, even though I saw him build up to the AFCON where he would run behind the defense. I think that he would want to use Urile to create a double number 10 sometimes, to help Umbule to control the midfield, and then Rile has the opportunity to run behind. Unkota is also an outlet on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's his position.
That's his position. Then Umbule, Mkwena helps you with controlling the midfield. Uyaya uyekmela kati mali yethu to be focused on the counter attacks, because number one, his biggest quality is that he's got height and he can interpret the game. You understand? So he helps us in that aspect. But Mangata Cheka, whether he uses or police, I think he might use them as more of a number 10 than a winger, in my opinion, because they would want runs behind the defense. Midfield, we need to be compact and solid. That's why Tebza, in my opinion, I had said he's the most important player, because he's the one that plays the 8 in the national team. And the 8 in football is the most difficult position, because you're playing with some of the best midfielders in the world. He's going to have to win some of those battles for us to have an advantage in a game. It's the heart of the midfield. If he has a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 game in each and every game in those group stages, then we do have a chance. Aboyaya, they've got not a simple role, but they've got a big role in terms of making sure that they do things that Utebza doesn't do. Umbule,
I would love to see him better there. For I know how athletic Angola is, and I know to look at Stole and his lack of, because he looks like the tempo is always like,
you know what I'm worried about?
And the Angolans will be like, the tempo, like that's the worry that I have. And Umbata will match that tempo of in that midfield.
That's more of an attacking lineup, to be honest with you. Sure. Maybe I'm more pragmatic.
No, Umbata, you can tell him to stay. Like it's his job to be a defensive midfielder. Just look for a longer pass, basically. Because you also, if it's him, not Tebza, you're speaking into the defensive part. Yeah. But also, when you have the moment in center to attack, they can also help you with that.
You're right. Maybe against Egypt. Then maybe you can add more of a defensive
when
option.
Slower tactically.
Actually.
When it's tactically slower.
Actually.
Because the Angolans, their profile, I've seen them. Pedro Atletico, they're helter-skelter.
Actually, you're right.
They go at you like this.
You need a midfielder that can cover volume and distance. Yeah. Sometimes it's not only just about the technical and the defensive and focusing on. Sometimes you need someone who can cover distance, which I think
I don't know if he can be suddenly a Sergio Busquets, because that's one defensive midfielder who could, at his slow tempo, can still read the game whilst everyone is going like this.
But you know what's my biggest worry again, Mr. Nkewu, with that defensive midfielder being important? I'm very worried about the right-hand side of our defense, centre back. I'm worried about Sibisi. I'm worried about Ngezane. Obviously, he's playing in the
I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm really worried in that space. I trust Nkulisho to help. But I am very worried with our centre back.
What do you do with Mbogazi as well? How give us an indicator? I know you are panicking with time. Do we have 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes? Okay, we have 2 more minutes. What do you do with Mbogazi? And let's go to predictions as well. Do you bring him straight at the AFCON after, destroying maybe his confidence and all of that, and then not playing him much in the last warm-up game, and then now what do? Do you bring him back straight?
Junior mentioned something very important when you were talking to him here. And then but for me, he's the best defender we have in the country.
The problem is that we didn't see him in the last game, the Ghana B team as well. So now you read into it. What is it?
You know what I'm feeling there? I'm just feeling that they were giving players that will not maybe play an opportunity in that game. But for me, he's the best player you have. As a coach, coaches work like this.
That's the best defender.
He's your best defender. You need your best players on the pitch. He will, Mr. Nkewu, sometimes you get into a space, even now as a boss, where you feel like, maybe I don't like working with this guy, but because of certain things, I'm just going to put that aside.
Best performance
you always say that I don't have to I don't have to like this guy for me to, or whatever, how you normally articulate yourself.
No,
with
for sure.
regard-
Like,
yeah, for
even
sure.
in business,
Yeah.
there are people you don't have to like to
Yeah,
work with,
to
but
work
they
with.
bring in the money. You know,
For
whether
sure.
it's yourself or
Yeah.
it could be yourself to other people.
Yes.
That, damn it, this guy is very abrasive, is confident, is cocky, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
But if we're bringing money together, it's like we might as well ride the train. So
Yeah.
I don't think that the coach dislikes Umbogazi.
For sure.
I think that he distracted his
sure.
his confidence, and because of that, it's a cause for worry. I hope, as
But
you're
you play him
as
with
you're
Nkewu.
saying, Wuti, maybe the last game, because it didn't play him, it was a chance for other players. But I'm like, if you can give him 45 minutes,
Yeah.
because we're putting minutes into our legs, basically. Or maybe he thought you've just flown from America.
Yeah.
I don't want to break you flying from America to come back here.
Yeah.
And then there's an AFCON next week. So we'll see. But we need that player.
We need him. He's our best player. He's our best defender in the country. Best performing player. If he didn't leave, in my opinion, this season he was going to win Football of the Year. In my opinion, he's been that good. The boy. Every game he plays is an 8 out of 10, if not 9 out of 10 or
Okay,
10
what
out
do you
of 10.
see Angola, South Africa?
I do see us scoring in the second half. I do see us between Apolis and Rile Mfokeng. If Apolis starts, I do see Rile scoring in the second half. If Rile starts, I do see Apolis having an impact in the second half. A 1-0 result.
1-0 for Bafana Bafana.
Yeah.
There you are. Thank you very much, Lindo Pep. We'll start tomorrow with the African Cup of Nations. We hope you enjoy our coverage of the African Cup of Nations as well. We'll try as much as we can. You know, sometimes we have a love-hate relationship as well, that if it's not good, like the performances, we will tell you. But of course, just know that in our hearts, all of us, even if we're hard-hitting, we want the national team to do well. And hopefully they can be able to do that. Thank you very much for watching iDiski TV. For breaking news, go to iDiskiTimes.co.za.